Hey, what's up? How you doing, guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sean. Um, this is going to be a documentation of my journey on joining the Air Force. 37 years old. I have had a desire to become an airman for quite some time now. I've had a contract with the Army Air Force Exchange Services, AIFES, for about 10 years now, and I've been working on the Air Force bases nationwide, mostly West Coast, and I've had an opportunity to network with many service members, family, and personnel on the base, which has grown my desire to become an airman. So I just wanted to give you my my process and any hiccups that may have occurred and any bumps or curves that I have faced during my recruiting process. It started back in January 2019 when I made my first call to the recruiter while I was out working at the Edwards Air Force Base. I was doing windshield repair. It's my current business, and it's what I've been doing for about 8 years now. I was also working some RV parks and shopping centers, fixing RV windshields, car, truck, bus windshields. And I decided, you know, I want to make the move. I've talked to a couple of people about joining and trying to find out the stipulations, and you know, the best way to really go about joining the Air Force is just go into a recruiter and talk to them. They're your main resource. That's where everything starts. So I called the El Centro recruiting office. I got an email. I responded to the email. I didn't get a response back. So I called, left a message, didn't get a return call. It's when I decided that I was going to call my hometown recruiting in Long Island. So I called the recruiter in Long Island while I was still working in California. And I asked him basically just what kind of paperwork am I going to need to start my process. You know, what am I going to need to bring to you to streamline this process, so when we first meet, we can actually sit down, fill out the initial paperwork instead of sitting and asking all those questions. I didn't want to waste his time. I don't want to waste my time. So he gave me a quick little questionnaire over the phone to make sure that I was pre-qualified. There was nothing that I mentioned to him that he didn't think he could work with. So he said, all right, you're pre-qualified, you know, you're going to bring me your birth certificate, your social security card, you're going to bring me your driver's license, and we're going to fill out some paperwork. I'm going to give you a packet to take home and fill out. And that was in January. And I explained to him, you know, I'm working out west right now. I'm not in Long Island. I'm going to have to pack up everything and drive across the country. And when I get back there, I'm going to call you immediately, and we're going to process some paperwork. And the recruiter basically was like, okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm sure they get a lot of calls from people that, you know, are just looking for information, and they kind of, you know, string them along. So I made it very clear I don't want to waste your time. I just want to make sure that everything is, you know, on point here so that we can go forward when we do meet. So fast forward to June, I believe it was June 3rd. I got back June 1st. I gathered the paperwork that I had that I needed to bring in with him, that I had stored here in Long Island. And I went straight to his office, and we filled out paperwork. And he was surprised to hear from me and see me. He was pleasantly surprised, you know, because, yeah, I did call him like 4 or 5 months earlier. And it's actually 6 months earlier. I know how to do math. And yeah, it was a good first meeting. We sat down. He gave me my SF-86. We went over all the paperwork. I explained to him that I did have a DUI on my record from when I was 20 years old. And he explained to me, okay, well, you're going to have to get a moral waiver for that. So I went home, I filled out my SF-86. Part of getting a moral waiver is you have to go to your local courthouse or wherever the law violation occurred, and you have to get the court disposition and the court papers and all the information that occurred while for the law infraction. So I went down to the courthouse and I got the disposition and the court papers with the actual tickets and the occurrence and what happens during the trial. And then I also had to write a letter explaining what happens, how it happens, what I learned from it, why I want to join the Air Force. Just basically just my story, and not too long, not too short, just really just who you are, why you want to join, what happened, what'd you learn from it, basically. And then they submit that to their supervisor, and the supervisor looks it over. And if the supervisor approves it, he sends it up to the recruiting commander. The recruiting commander looks it over. If he sees anything that's questionable, he may not approve it, but he called me up and he wanted to hear my story from my mouth. It was a short conversation. He just kind of said, I believe his words were, hey, I'm looking at your paperwork here, and your letter and your law violations from when you were younger, and your past is pretty bloody. You want to explain to me what happened? And I just gave him, the truth. I said, I was young. I wasn't 21 years old yet. I was still hanging out with some questionable people. I disassociated myself. I decided to choose a different path. I became an entrepreneur. I cleaned up my act, and I haven't been in trouble since. I really want to join the Air Force and continue to change my path and serve my country. And the commander said, congratulations, I'm approving your waiver. Good luck, and make sure you keep your nose clean and do everything that your recruiter asks you to do. Make his life easy. And he hung up the phone, and I'm very grateful. It made me excited. I was so nervous, that this was all going to hold me back. I also had a couple other violations that were on my record that were dismissed and dropped. I had a disorderly conduct on my record from scalping tickets, and I had a criminal trespassing from staying at a girlfriend's dorm room, which was against the college laws and rules, and her roommate called the police on us. They arrested me, and later on they dropped it because the roommate didn't want to press charges. She just wanted me out of the room. But it was still on my record that I got arrested, so I had to bring that up. It's full disclosure, because if you don't, then all of a sudden you look like you're lying, and, well, then that's... When they find that at MEPS, and they most likely will, and if they don't find that at MEPS, they might find it later on during a top security clearance check, you could get in trouble for a fraudulent enlistment. So, I actually forgot about those. I found those out by going through Identigo, and I did an FBI background check on myself and a state background check on myself, which cost $90 and $60. You go and give a fingerprint biometrics. They send it into the FBI, and they send you back your rap sheet. When I got the rap sheet back, I was like, oh, shoot, I forgot about this. I called the recruiter immediately, and I told him about it. And the recruiter said, well, because I already had submitted my letter. And the recruiter said, well, we're going to have to change your letter before I actually send it up. I said, okay, no problem. I apologize. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I did a background check to make sure, and these popped up, and I had no clue that the violation was on there. And the disorderly conduct, I kind of forgot about it. I just didn't think it was on there because I remember I got an ACOD, and I wasn't sure if it was a violation, if it was just dropped. But it was on there, and I'm glad I did. And it was all approved. So, but yeah, that was like the first part, and the first, really, it was like about a 2-month process to go through so I had to go up to the college, which was like 2.5 hours north upstate New York. I had to drive up there. I had to go to the courthouse. I had to get the disposition. I was scalping a ticket in New York City. I had to drive into New York City. I had to go to the courthouse there and get the disposition and the court papers on that violation. And then the DOE, I had to go into the Long Island courthouse, and I had to go there and get all the court papers and the disposition. And then I had to add that all on my letter, itemize them, explain each account, what happened, why it happened, what I learned from it. So yeah, that's the whole process of getting a waiver for a moral waiver. Now I was supposed to go to MEPS last Wednesday. Today is the 3rd of November. So I've been at this since the 3rd of June, and I needed I had an illness back a couple of years ago that I had mentioned, and they just wanted to make sure that I was cured of it. I got the paperwork that I received treatment, and everything is fine and clear, but now they want a doctor's note, and they were going to schedule me 2 days before that, and they said, hey, you just need a doctor's note. So I called the doctor, and the doctor said, I can't write you a letter, you never came back for a follow-up. I was a little frustrated because, I've been on this for 3 months now. And, when I went to the doctor, when I first came back to get this letter from him that I got the treatment, I asked him if I needed to follow up, and they said, no, you're good. You received treatment, and there's no way that you could be sick anymore. You're fine. I said, yeah, okay. Well, now I try to ask him for a written letter on a letterhead. He goes, I can't write you a letter. You didn't come for a follow-up. And I'm like, I asked you for a follow-up. So if you're going through the recruiting process and you've ever had any illnesses that, you had to have like a treatment for, or sickness, and, you got treatment, they're going to ask for that stuff. So make sure you always schedule a follow-up, and go to your follow-up and get a test or whatever, and make sure that your sickness is cured. Even after you got the treatment, always go for the follow-up. These are things they're going to ask you for. Make sure you do that. I had a feeling it was going to happen, and I just went with the word of the doctor. And now the Surgeon General, I guess, and MEPS is going to ask for it. And before they can schedule the MEPS, they want to send that up with the scheduling for the MEPS, so that the doctors don't have any discrepancies and it doesn't hold anything up further. So I was scheduled for the 17th because they were like 3 weeks out. We don't have anything. So every day I've been calling the doctor to see if they have any cancellations. And today they just called me right as I was about to start this video, and they just rescheduled me for the 5th, Thursday. So I'll be able to go in and get that expedited, get it moving along, because I really want to schedule my MEPS, go through the